Fight Back with Libby Znaimer on Zoomer Radio.
Welcome back. As we have been reporting since last week, the UofT, University of Toronto administration, has made no move to dismantle the anti-Israel encampment. Not only that, they are allowing the masked protesters, many of whom have no connection to the university, to control access to that part of the campus. And those people are singling out Jews. Take a listen.
Please, guys.
Certainly you're not afraid of a camera, are you?
It's one of yours. One of yours.
You can bring a police here. In my mind, just bring police here, bring them, or maybe bring them, because I would like to get in.
We don't want to call the police. They're working on that right now.
Do you think they're not letting you in because they think...
Because I'm Jewish.
Because you have an Israeli accent?
Correct, because I'm Jewish, because they know where I'm coming from. They just want to get me.
Well, that definitively puts the lie to those who claim that the protests are not anti-Semitic. And we've been hearing a lot lately about the targeting of Jewish students and faculty on campus and how unsafe it can be for them. And finally, the Prime Minister has addressed it. We just heard that on the noon news. He was giving a speech right before noon. The numbers to call, 416-360-0740, toll free 1-866-740-4740. And right now, let's go to Jay Solomon, who is the Chief Advancement Officer of Hillel, Ontario. Hillel is a campus Jewish organization, and Yotam Gabbay, who is a student at UofT and is about to begin graduate studies. Thanks for joining us, and welcome. Yotam, what's it been like on campus?
It's been a very difficult situation over the last around 8 months. Jewish and Israeli students are feeling really vulnerable on campus right now. There's all these institutions and mechanisms that are in place that are supposed to be keeping us safe. And in many cases, the very same people that are claiming to champion diversity and inclusion and stand against hatred are simply letting us down. I'm very thankful that this encampment is occurring at a time when exam season is wrapping up and most students can choose to physically avoid it. But, there's convocation coming up in about a month. And, many students like myself are looking at returning to campus in the fall with an incredible sense of just uncertainty about the future and what kind of environment we're going to be forced to pursue our studies in. There's this feeling that there's just this active hate movement against, Israeli and Jewish students on campus. And no one deserves having to try to deal with that when they're trying to pursue an education. And, it's really just a microcosm of what society has been like in anti-Semitism in terms of academia is a bubble. And, I've had peers and others who have, even gone as far as supporting October 7th and, having to deal with that and what your place is in Canadian society as a Jew and as a student. It's been difficult. And, every week there's just more and more and more news and more things going on that are just really hitting so close to home.
Jay,
it's just really difficult.
Jay, what's your experience with the students you work with?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this work about 16 years now, and at Hillel, Ontario, we track anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism across the province. And I can tell you that this year we've seen reports over 500 incidents across the 9 universities that we staff. To give you context, last year we received about 55 reports. So it's really been staggering since this fall, and certainly since October the 7th. And we look at what's going on now at the UofT and at McMaster and others, and you've got these campuses who are being occupied by off-campus activists, agitators, who are coming to campus, as you said, to really create chaos. And, it serves to make Jewish students and Jewish faculty and Jewish staff feel intimidated, singled out, harassed, targeted, displaying really awful anti-Semitic imagery, slogans, and the time has come. The universities have a responsibility to ensure student safety, and we're calling on them to take action.
By the way, we have made repeated requests for interviews with executives from the University of Toronto with spokespeople for the University of Toronto. They have turned down those requests. They're saying we prefer to dialogue directly with the protesters. At the beginning, they did give an ultimatum, which they completely ignored and backed off of. So that is the response from U of T. They say they're not doing interviews at this time, certainly not with us.
And Libby, I'll tell you, we have great relationships with the university administration, but this has been completely mishandled. As you said, the deadline has come and gone, and now the university has a very challenging situation that they need to try and manage. But they have a responsibility first and foremost to ensure Jewish students are safe, and they have a responsibility to do something about it.
Well, they aren't doing anything about it. Yotam, what do you make of the fact that they're actually, I haven't seen any reporter on the scene ask those protesters, why are you covering your face? Like, what are you doing that you are covering your face? And they are the ones controlling access. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think there's a few different factors. Part of it just has to do with the fact that, a lot of the way that people are covering their faces in a lot of ways is meant to, literally make themselves look like members of Hamas, like Hamas spokespeople, because they see themselves in that way as part of revolutionary, like as revolutionaries in some sense. Even if it's not necessary, people are covering their face because it serves to create like a victimization that they feel, that there's, they need to hide their face, and it also, of course, it's so that when people, commit hate crimes, say hate speech, it's more difficult for the police, it's more difficult for administrators to identify them, and it's also just supposed to create fear. It's supposed to, it's a natural instinct to fear the unknown, and purposefully making yourself unknown is also, it's meant to intimidate.
Okay, let's take a couple of calls. We've got Karen in Bolton, and Karen just asked the question, why are they covering their faces? And our guest, Yotam, had a theory about that. What do you think, Karen?
Well, if you want to be anonymous, why are you protesting something if you don't believe in it? You've got to be out there, and if that's how you feel, then show yourself as to how you feel. Don't wear your mask. I don't understand it myself personally. That's my take.
Okay. Let's hear from Sheila in Mississauga. Hi, Sheila.
Hi. I spoke about this before, that we have to nip this in the bud before it starts. Nobody's listening. Nobody's doing. I guess the laws have to change. They are old laws which we are implementing, and the society has changed in every way. But we have not changed the laws. We have to change the laws, otherwise there's trouble brewing in the future for a lot of people, because a lot of people have come from everywhere to Canada to find freedom, but we are held hostage here. The Canadians who live here are held hostage. Now you tell me, where's the justice?
Today I'm just wondering, thank you very much, Sheila, for your call. If the tide is finally turning, because a lot of people who were very supportive are finally seeing, I don't know if I'm being overly optimistic, wishful thinking, are finally seeing these protesters for what they are, and that is anti-Semitic. Do you have any sense, Jay Solomon, that the tide is turning?
Well, I think what's fair to say is that the overwhelming majority of Canadians have no interest in this. They have no interest in the divisive, hateful messaging of those who support Hamas, of those who support the October 7th attacks. And I think that, to your point, that most people look at these encampments exactly the way you've articulated, that this is not something that's appealing to them. And I think that if there's small concessions in any of this, I think that should be one of them. Most people, and I've watched them as I've stood on campus, most people walk past this. They want nothing to do with this. And I think the longer that these occupations of the campuses continue, the more negative sentiments that the organizers are going to get thrown their way.
And Yotam, what about on the university? One of the things that's very troubling to a lot of people is the sense that this type of hate is very pervasive among young people. It's normalized.
Yeah, I think it's really sad that this is the state that society is going in. And I think people haven't, there's been all these efforts in place for diversity and equity and inclusion, but Jewish students have felt left out by a lot of that. And, it's in many cases not just a mistake that it just so happens that, we're having these patterns that continue where Jewish students end up being the ones that are targeted and being the ones having to face hate in a way that no other group is. And, in many cases, institutions are, they're complicit in it. They're not doing enough to discourage it. The university has clear rules against this encampment and, all the hate speech that we've seen. And they've even released statements about how much the line is being crossed. But, in the same breath, they're refusing to take action. That's the best that we have, a refusal to take action. And, this one issue of so many others that this university has had, it's kicking the can further down the road. Even politicians, like, for example, Jagmeet Singh, they've gone and talked about the importance of free speech in this specific matter, where we really have seen outright hatred. Was this how the convoy protest was covered, for example, where the existence of some hate speech or some groups that people didn't like? Absolutely not. The exact same politicians were going so hard against them. And, now we see that there's an exception because, in my opinion, Jews are involved.
Okay. Let's take a call from Roger in Caledon. Hi, Roger.
Hey, Libby. I just want a couple of quick comments. First of all, I believe Diamond has a class action lawsuit against universities across Canada for this reason. I'm just wondering if you have you've heard anything about that?
I haven't had any updates. I don't think it's been certified yet. I don't know where it's at. Yeah, and what's your comment, Roger? We're running out of time here.
The other comment was, you have a lot of good guests on your show, obviously, but one doctor said it best, Libby. He said, you know what? The problem with society is learn to accept bad behavior, and it's wrong. And that's my comment, yeah.
Okay. On that note, thank you for your call, Roger. We wrap things up. Thanks so much, Yotam Gabbay and Jay Solomon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, we are taking another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a warning by CSIS and also the first report by the Foreign Interference Inquiry when we return.